little bit up. Here. Back, this camera. Just give me a wave.
Welcome to the Wish I Was Here press conference. On the table, on the far right, producer Michael Shamberg. And just next to me, Zach, who is a multi-talented actor, director, producer, writer on this film. I'll start with the first question. Obviously, this feels like a very personal project to you, co-written by you and your brother.
Yes.
Tell us how it all came about.
Well, I much like Garden State, I wanted to write something personal, not a memoir per se, but a version of my life. In this case, I wanted to write with my brother because of the subject matter. He has 2 young kids. He is sort of the primary caregiver in his family. In his relationship. So we kind of combined both of our lives to make the lead character. And there's plenty of fiction woven in, but it is a version of our lives. And that's just something I like doing with these 2 films. For me, it's a way of, the old expression, writing what you know. I just feel I can write best if I'm writing material that's very, very close to me.
Before we open the floor for questions, it was a very interesting way to finance this film with Kickstarter. So maybe you and Michael can detail how it got financed.
I'll start off and Michael jump in. But, we were about to go the traditional route, which for independent film financing, I'm sure the journalists here know, you go and meet financiers, and essentially pretty quickly the conversation turns to what are you going to sacrifice? What are you going to change? What are you going to cut? What compromises will you make in order to get the film made? We were about to set down that path like every other filmmaker when this news of this Veronica Mars experiment on Kickstarter crowdfunding had begun. And because my very, very loyal, amazingly passionate fan base on the internet, my producers, Michael and Stacy, said, it would be crazy not to at least explore this concept, because if in theory it worked, there would be no compromises, there would be no changes you'd have to make, there would be no concern for shareholders. It would just be the art, and art for the fans by the fans.
And also it was my partner Stacy who had the idea. She'd always wanted to try this, and Zach because of his following, but also by having 47,000 fans before you made the movie, you felt like you already had an audience, and it was very exciting. And sometimes we'd be criticized, why are you taking money? Other people need the money. But we sort of likened it, well, if you like a band, you buy their album and you buy their T-shirts. We just gave them that before the concert. And
you raised $2 million with crowdfunding?
Well, we raised $3.1 million, but the reason the $2 million a figure is because the goal, our goal, I knew that if I put my own money in, and if we pre-sold some foreign territories, and if we raised $2 million in a month, we could get to what our ideal budget would be. And then everyone's told us it wouldn't work for a myriad of reasons. We had a month. It funded in 48 hours. So then after our jaws came up off the ground, we started going, wow, this is insane. And it kept going and it kept going until when it closed, we had 47,000 participants across Earth, many in Switzerland, many in Germany, UK, everywhere on the Earth.
Amir coming from Yediot Achronot Israel, Shana Tova, you celebrate Rosh Hashanah. What do you bring from your own background, your Jewish background, to the movie? And do you describe your humor as a Jewish humor? Is there such an animal?
Oh, I think there's definitely such an animal, and yes, I was raised on that animal. Woody Allen was my father and both my mother and father's favorite filmmaker. Yes, that Jewish humor was something I was very much raised on, and it was my father's sense of humor, too. When I was 18, I got my first role in the Screen Actors Guild was playing Woody Allen and Diane Keaton's son in Manhattan Murder Mystery. So that was particularly surreal that I had been raised on them, and then they were playing my parents.
And Bullets Over Broadway.
And I just finished 189 shows in a row in Woody Allen's first musical, Bullets Over Broadway. Thank you. There's one person who cares. So yes, and my Jewish roots are very involved in the film. The film is about growing up religious and a secular man looking for a spirituality that's not the one that was handed to him by his parents. The religion, especially the Jewish religion, is something that had we not had this crowdfunding, definitely would have been stripped out of it. People don't, traditional financiers aren't super interested in someone delving into religion and the search for spirituality, let alone a religion that in my country is 2% and shrinking. But I thought, how could I not write about my own experience? And I thought audiences are smart. Even if they're not Jewish, they'll insert their own religious experience where I had put Judaism.
I want to ask you, do we ever are coming out of age? Because there are coming-of-age movies about teenagers, coming-of-age movies about 20-somethings, and now about 30-somethings.
Well, one of the things I talk about in the film is this feeling of being stuck in the last chapter and feeling like you're overdue for the next chapter of your life to start. And that's something that my brother and I wrote that we felt like a lot of people could relate to. So it isn't necessarily that you're always coming of age late. It's that I think that there's these growing pains in whatever aspect of your life you're in. I think a lot of people can relate to feeling like, gosh, I'm supposed to be in this section of my life, but it hasn't begun yet. When's it going to begin? There's a great Colin Hay song I love called Waiting for My Real Life to Begin. So I think no matter what aspect of your life you're in, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, whatever, I think that there's a period of time that is, if you look at the graph where you feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. Society says I'm supposed to be having kids and married and in this stage of my career path at this age.
I have a question for Michael. What's the role of a producer when the director, star of the film, has such a clear artistic vision? How do you vehicle it?
Well, the way you make a good movie is you work off of a shared vision. Everybody goes in the same direction. And because Zach had the original vision and written it and was directing it, we just kind of supported what he wanted to do. And if he was going off the rails a little bit, we'd sort of nudge him back. But frankly, he gave us so much to work with. It was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had.
Hi, Zach. My name is Andreas Wiseman. I write for the trade magazine Screen International. Hi.
Andreas, where are you?
I'm over here.
Yeah, he likes to
Mike.
sit down.
We did.
You can stand so they can see you a bit better.
Don't be shy.
Here we go.
Here you go, moment of fame.
I wanted to ask you, Zach, were you surprised by looking back on it, were you surprised by the criticism around the use of Kickstarter? Do you intend to use it again? And what's coming up for you?
I was completely taken aback by the criticism of Kickstarter, to be frank. I was not expecting it. I was expecting the conversation because it's fascinating and it's new. And just like anything fascinating and new, it's exciting to talk about, just like when Amazon started or when eBay started, these paradigms that shift, iTunes, Napster, whatever it is, it's fascinating to be at the forefront of a new conversation.